All right, guys, this is Dr. Dan coming at you with a video. Today we're talking about elbow pain, whether you're a golfer, tennis athlete, or whether you're in the gym and you just can't get rid of this elbow discomfort that's on the top or the bottom side. We're going to talk about why that happens and what you can do to fix it. Now, majority of elbow pain is going to cause from an overuse or overactivity of some of the muscles or tendons that attach to the elbow, because the elbow is either doing too much work to stabilize or to produce force. And what we don't want to do is let the smaller muscle groups around the elbow do this. We want some of the larger groups in the back side of the shoulder blade to get in the right position so that they can do that work for us. Now, the first one that we want to start with is an exercise that's going to get that shoulder blade into the right position to absorb and adapt to stress and not let all of these smaller movements happen at the elbow. So we're going down onto the ground, onto a foam roller. If you don't have a foam roller, you could use a medicine ball or something that's going to elevate your shoulder blades. That way you can get your hands and your blades back. Our first goal here is to think about shoulder blades melting around that foam roller, and my hands are going to go toward the ceiling. I want to start with my hands close to my body because I want to think about keeping my blades back and my hands down against the ground as much as I can. If I'm getting to a zone where my hands start drifting up off the ground, that's going to indicate that the front side of my body is a little bit more stiff and it's not letting my blade get to where it should be. So I want to do a snow angel movement to a position where my hands start to drift away. If I can't keep my hands on the ground, I want to stop there and bring them back toward my midline or my hips. All right? Let's repeat this movement until you feel that you're opening that chest up enough. So that's our first movement, is getting the blade back into a position where it can absorb stress. Now what we want to do is teach the muscles on the back side of the shoulder blade to absorb that stress so the elbow doesn't have to. Now, to do that movement, I'm going to use a side lying external rotation. And for this exercise, what you don't want to feel is strain in the elbow. You want to feel a majority of the work being done on the back side of the shoulder and the back side of the blade. I'm going to use a Y bell. You guys can use a change plate, maybe 5 pounds, 7 pounds, 10 pounds is pretty heavy, but if you could do it, great. Now our goal here is to do a rotation that you're thinking about not only using this, but using your blade to stay engaged with it. All right? Most people are going to get disengaged and they're going to do the movement here. I want you to think about this shoulder is staying back and in line with my ears or even behind my ears as I do the rotation. So I'm going to grab the weight. Again, you can use a dumbbell, Y bell, something kind of light, maybe a 5-pound weight. Squeeze with my lat and my shoulder blade, rotate 45 degrees from the ground and back down. The movement doesn't have to be big. I don't have to rotate up toward the ceiling. I'm just getting the weight back and using the back side of my shoulder blade to do all of the work. So I should be feeling it here, then I should be feeling it a little bit in here, but I should never feel it in here. If I'm doing it here, I'm doing it wrong. What I also want to be aware of, and dumbbells, it's really easy to do this, is flicking the wrist to get momentum to get that weight up. You'll immediately start to feel it along the forearm and along this wrist because you're using momentum to do the work because the muscles are too weak and are unable to stabilize the blade back. So that's our first movement to activate muscles on the back side. We also want to create some more stability through the back side of the blade and work in a long lever position where our arm is going to be more functional for things like a golf swing, a tennis swing, or maybe if I'm doing a pulling movement or pushing movement where my elbow has to be extended. To work on this, we're going to think about pulling our shoulder blade back, rotating towards the ceiling, keeping my shoulder blade engaged. I want to press up toward the ceiling, slowly let that weight down, and then pulling the weight in when I feel that my elbow is taking too much of the stress. The goal here is to keep the shoulder blade muscles engaged the whole time and not letting the elbow take over the work. Yes, you're going to feel some of the elbow working here. That's great because we want to start to train those muscles to be secondary stabilizers and not primary movers of these types of movements. But I really want to stay engaged in the backside and on the top of my shoulder blade for something where I'm lowering the weight, pulling it back, keeping a big chest and engaging underneath my shoulder blade. So that's our second active movement. Our third active movement here, we're gonna work the core and integrate that shoulder blade as well, because we wanna connect the hand, the elbow, and the shoulder to the rest of the body, because that's gonna lead to greater force transferability if I'm holding on to a baseball bat, a club, a racket, or what have you. So I'm gonna turn this way so you can see the movement. We're gonna do a press towards the ceiling. Once I press here, I don't wanna stay unengaged. I don't wanna keep this shoulder towards my face. I wanna keep the shoulder down and packed towards my hip. I wanna feel my lat get engaged from this movement. From here, I wanna keep my abs on by pulling my rib cage down and my pelvis up. So I'm keeping pressure in my abdomen. From this movement, I'm staying engaged with my lat, letting the weight fall with gravity towards the floor. I'm feeling pressure here, and then I can pull the weight back up. I'm gonna let that weight pull me back down. I feel a little bit through my triceps, a little bit in the lat, maybe some in the pecs as well, but a majority of it still should be felt through muscles on the back side of my shoulder, front side of my abs, a little bit of pec. I should not be feeling this in my elbow. If I'm feeling this in my elbow, I'm using my elbow too much to stabilize this weight. Kettlebells are really great to use for this movement because the weight on the back side of the wrist is gonna pull me further into that movement where my hand goes toward the ground. So I have to engage muscles here to not let that happen. This is a great drill for connecting the arm, the elbow, and the wrist to the rest of the body and not using the elbow to do all of those movements. Hopefully with this video, you'll be able to see and try out that connecting the shoulder to the rest of the body is gonna minimize strain that happens to the elbow itself. I'm gonna have another video that's gonna link to some exercises that work the wrist in particularly isolated positions where we work the top of the forearm, the bottom side of the forearm, and some other rotations as well. But that's gonna be a secondary topic if I can't figure out how to get my shoulder blade back and connected to the rest of my rib cage. All of the stress is gonna go into my elbow, and that's gonna lead to pain and things that I don't want. Hopefully you guys learned something today. See you in the next video.